Major General Kochhar, if I could come to you now. What do you make of the situation that's rapidly, of course, perhaps moving forward? Now, this, of course, in the light of the fact that Russia says it's got peacekeeping forces in these two regions, and also given the fact now that we have a Ukraine statement that's coming out which says that we will defend our territorial integrity. So how do you see this going forward?
You see, what is happening is that Russia has an experience of 2014 when he annexed Crimea. At that point of time, Russia got a lot of bad publicity and the world opinion was against the Russians. Russians don't want to make the same mistake again. They are today trying to get into Ukraine through a grey zone warfare. They want to encourage the separatists, especially in those two regions which are known as Donbass, to get into the Ukraine arterial veins. They want to damage the country from within because Russia is very much concerned about the NATO influence in Ukraine, and especially on 14th September 2020, when the National Security Agreement was signed in London, which gave proximity to the United States as well as NATO to establish their military bases in Ukraine, which is right at the doorstep of the Russians. They would not want that to happen. At the same time, the Russians are not going to go in for a full-fledged conflict. They are going to first get into Ukraine through these two separatist regions. And let me tell you that in Ukraine, almost 17.2% is the Russian population there. So they have a great deal of their own ethnicity, which is there in Ukraine, and they can easily foment internal disturbances inside Ukraine.
Right. Major Kochhar, as you're pointing out, of course, these people who are fighting, as they say, they are rebels. Of course, the West calls them Russia-backed rebels, essentially says that this is a Russian militia. But India at the UNSC talked about the Minsk agreements. Now, do you think that there's any going back to them at all now with Russia sending in its troops into this region?
No, I don't think so. You see, these agreements, as we have seen with the Chinese also, in spite of all our border agreements with them, almost 5 agreements we had with China, they have violated these agreements. These agreements, when it comes to sovereignty issues, do not hold water. And therefore, these agreements will be set aside because Russia has made its intention absolutely clear. When almost 3/4 of its military strength is on the Ukrainian border, it is trying to intimidate and also send a message to the United States as well as the NATO that you cannot be expanding the way you are doing in this region, especially when the European Union is also spreading its wings on this side, and Russia is feeling threatened. So I don't think these agreements will hold much water now.
Right. Major General Kochhar, what the US and UK have done so far is threaten sanctions, broader sanctions on Russia. Of course, they've also stopped trade with these disputed regions. But do you think that that is going to deter Vladimir Putin?
No, I don't think so, because you see, China has joined hands with Russia, and to a great extent, these sanctions will get negated. For example, US put sanctions on Iran also, But then China came forward and is trying to bail out Iran, and with all that kind of agreements and economic cooperation happening between the two countries, I do not think there would be much impact of these sanctions. Yes, there is an issue of natural gas pipeline which goes right up to Germany as well as Hungary. These are the two countries which are going to be affected in case of Russian gas is not made available to them. So these economic sanctions works both ways. Europe needs Russian gas. At the same time, Russia also needs all kinds of raw material and equipment and technology from these countries. So it's a two-way affair. If it is going to affect the Russians, it is also going to affect the Europeans. And at the same time, do not forget that China is there with Russia now, and it is going to make a great difference as far as this is concerned.
Right, absolutely, Major General Kochhar, as you're saying, of course, energy security will play a vital role in this conflict now. Thank you very much for joining us on Republic this morning.
Thank you very much.